So we'll start with the quick introduction of everyone. I'm starting with Mr. Abraham here, who's the President and Group Head of Marketing, Service Quality, Value-Added Services and Innovation at Thomas Cook and SOTC. Abraham cites a very unique intersection. He owns the Marketing and Service Quality and Innovation chapter. This means that when Thomas Cook deploys AI, he sees both sides of it, the growth story and the operational reality. I also have with me Hari Ganapati, who's the CEO and co-founder of Pick Your Trails. Hari built Pick Your Trails from consumer trip planning into something more ambitious. Their consumer products now includes AI powered trip feeds for real-time traveler support. And recently they also launched Fluid, their AI-powered corporate travel platform, which was launched in the late 2024. And of course, we have Mr. Ankush Nijavan. Ankush doesn't need any introduction, but he's a co-founder and managing director of TBO Tech. Ankush runs, which operates the B2B distribution layer and powers agents platforms across India. And he also serves as the chairperson of FICCI Outbound Tourism Committee. Between all three of them, we have someone who looks at B2B from a distribution point of view. We have someone who looks at consumer. And we have someone who has been looking at consumer for a very long time and come all the way till today. So before we start, I just want to give a little bit of, some stats which have been discussed about AI across a lot of players at this point in time. Some of them basically, yeah. So we'll start with the fact that a lot of people in the room, I'm assuming, are already using some or the other AI products. Recently, AI checkout, which is OpenAI checkout, had started adding a cost to the e-commerce checkout, which is 4% in addition to whatever people have been selling it for. Almost 36% of people who have been surveyed by Accenture say that they call AI as a good friend. 75% of these people actually use AI as a personal shopper. And at the same time, the click-through rate because of AI have gone down from 24% to 4.5%. And one of the biggest brands in the industry, Kayak, has written down almost $500 million in its valuation because of SEO decline. These are some of the top topics that have been covered, spoken about across the world. I want to start this not with the obvious questions, which everyone is asking about where everything is going to head and what we want to do, but something that I think everyone is not asking at this point in time, which is, we'll start with a very basic question. What is your organization today doing with AI? Where are you spending? Which side of the operations? And where do you see what has worked and what has not worked? Anyone who would like to go first? Abraham? Okay.
So I think at Thomas Cook India Group, I think our perspective on AI is very clear, as it should be with any emerging technology to my mind. Very clear use case, very defined business objective, and very measurable parameters to look at how this actually contributing to achieving that goal. So to that end, we have actually invested in a JV with a startup AI company, and we're building a suite for specifically identified sort of business processes, which sort of add up to an aggregated value, which will add up over time. So the way we're doing it is, one, of course, is the front end, which we've already deployed. We have generative AI chatbots, Tacy at Thomas Cook and Easy at SOTC, which today can walk you through, inquire like any human would, and sort of recommend or suggest right up to pricing, products, etc., to match your need, and guide you through a booking process, allowing you at all times, of course, to talk to a human should you need to. Very soon, it will also talk in English and Hindi, so it will be a voice bot as well. But that's the front end. What we are also seeing the business case for is increasingly most of our leads and conversations are originating digitally. And of course, we all know the problem with a lot of the digital leads is the low conversion, typically, in the traditional world. So what we are doing is actually using AI to sort of filter some of these. One, traffic on the website through Tacy and Easy in terms of conversations, so qualified leads only come to our humans to address. Second is when the call actually hits a call center, typically, we all know this when we run large-scale call centers, very high turnover. Typically, a lot of sellers and this is, by the law of probability, there's a good chance you will end up talking to an amateur seller or a trainer or a seller who's not very well trained yet on the job. So it's a very average quality conversation. So what we are doing is actually using AI, which has been trained with our most experienced good sellers, to actually prompt or assist the seller in that conversation real time. So the seller is actually getting assisted with prompts, information, etc., with a view to for the seller to have a better quality conversation with the customer. So this does two things for us. One, of course, it helps the seller in terms of productivity, in terms of bettering the chance of conversion. Two, obviously, from a customer experience point of view, the customer will more likely than not have a better conversation than earlier. What we're also doing while this conversation is happening is having an AI bot, which is like a QC bot, listen in to all conversations, and against a set of parameters, actually objectively score both the seller and the content in terms of match and quality of conversation. So what it's doing, it's real time, it's identifying which seller needs what training in what aspect. So that obviously leads to very focused training input. What we are also working on, which is the holy grail, if you will, for probably everybody in the room in the travel business, is to actually build a real-time, on-the-fly, customized solution where you can talk or type and build a holiday within a few minutes.
So, Hari?
I think Abraham's covered most points. But I think on a very serious note, for me internally, the key thing is it's a big mindset shift. So a large part of my time I try and spend in the organization evangelizing AI. It's very easy for people to believe that it's just one more change. But I think the proportion and the impact of this change is something that a lot of us in this room would have grown up with dial-up to internet to 5G. I think this is 10 to 100x of the proportion. So one of my key roles in the org is just evangelize AI. How do we get the workforce AI native? I think that's the key challenge ahead of me. A lot of these solutions will in some sense get productized, right? Be it call coaching, be it lead qualification, or any of the other aspects of it. But the biggest delta organizations will hold, I think, is can people start thinking AI first in everything that they do, right? And therefore, how do you discover solutions which you might not have discovered if you would just were brainstorming with you and one more human? I think that's I think largely where I look at. And once we do that, then it's like it spreads like wildfire. Everybody in the org is trying to see what can they do to improve their daily life. So there's somebody who wrote a script today in the org. They shared that we get a lot of founder escalations. So that person's written a script to automate all the emails to founder escalations, look at TAT, look at what's the kind of first response time, right? Who is it depending with, which region it's kind of. So when you empower the org, I think most of that, each one of them is trying to solve the problem with respect to AI from their perspective. That's from a large level org culture perspective we're trying to solve. At a fundamental level, I think we strongly believe internally that while these large level LLMs and state-of-the-art models are great at generic answers, right? People come to Pick Your Trail for expertise, for flexibility, and for service, right? And then if it's expertise, I cannot say AI can make mistakes, right? So I think we are trying to train models that give them the near 100% that, like Abraham said, a trained seller, or even better, somebody who's been to Bali, somebody who's been to Europe, is able to replicate that kind of knowledge base back in. I think that's where a lot of our efforts are going to build our own models, and I think that will become the moat. I think that's the second pillar of, so one is org change, culture change. Second is how do we move to a point where AI cannot make mistakes, right? That's when we are building a solve which is proprietary, which is not out of the box, and therefore it's a competitive advantage. And the third part, which we look at is, a lot of people still believe that it's automation, right? It's not automation, it's a goal-seeking outcome function. So we are trying to tell everybody that, hey, instead of just saying, complete this form for me through AI, how do you solve, let's say somebody asks for a refund. how do you run the entire refund? So we're building a refund AI, which from the moment a customer raises a refund, it looks at all calculations of refund, goes back, posts the customer there's a refund, he agrees, goes back, cancels all the API bookings, goes back and updates the invoice, and then ensures that a ticket is created for the finance team to process the refund. I think that's the kind of solution and solve we want to do, and I think those are the true proprietary modes. Otherwise, in 2-3 years, we will have a suite of products like SaaS products. They'll all be AI products, which everybody can build out of the box. Then it's just a function of who has the better product, which I think is not going to be a big differentiator.
Got it. Ankush. So before Ankush picks up, one quick fact about TBO has been that they raised 400 crores from their IPO, out of which 126 crores were marked for technology investment, out of which, as per last quarter, 98 crores have been spent. So we are expecting a lot better answer.
So that's a disadvantage when you're a listed company, right? People know my numbers. But yes, I think, first of all, I think what Hari just said, in 90s, when I started the business, the internet was the wave. I think that held very strongly for the last 25 years. I think the next wave is AI, and it is far more enormous, and I think the change is going to be much quicker than the internet. I personally believe the AI is the travel agent's best friend at the moment. At least in our case, I'm very optimistic. I think it's going to give a multiplier effect to everybody. One, it enhances the service levels for everybody, the discovery, and I think the customer experience, which will benefit the travel agent. And I'm talking about a B2B space. Let my two other colleagues talk about the B2C. Because I think I'm the wall between the consumer and the travel agent. And whatever it takes us to make the agent smarter, why using AI is the first motive today in the company. When it comes to our own content, I think a lot is being picked up at AI, and I can see a lot of enhancement in our system. Kudos to my tech team and my commercial guys. One small example I'll give you. Today when you're searching at TBO, it will actually show you hotels which are very Indian-centric. And I'm talking India market in specific. And Ankit, you will laugh, 66% hotels which are loved by Indians. Guess what is the reason?
Food. Yeah.
It's actually Indians love choosing hotels which have a jet spray in the bathroom. So I knew this is coming, food. I was shocked myself. Now this is where today I'm seeing how the AI is picking up. And I can tell you, I was in Udaipur 2 days back meeting our travel partners, and one of the girls actually said there, I love playing on the TBO system. And I keep prompting it, can you tell me this, can you tell me that? What I'm happy is, it's just the beginning of this journey, right? I think all of us are in probably early stages right now, be it any of our companies. I think the search itself is becoming much faster. I think discovery for us is the biggest battle, whether it is SOTC, myself, or Hari, and the other OTAs as well. I think that is which will make us smarter. And today, whatever said and done, the human in loop will never die. One, India is a complex country. The way we behave, the way we buy is very different, unlike the European world. Complex itineraries, large itineraries, I'm a big believer, and I keep saying this to the street as well, is still going to stay offline. Even if it becomes online, the TAM itself is so big, right? India is still a very small drop in the big ocean, and obviously the way we are growing, we all see this madness today, what's happening in OTM, it gives me a lot of confidence on the opportunity here. Now coming to the other side at the back end, for me it is cost saving, because I know Anup was saying the largest B2B selling hotel, I think it was towards me, he was hinting. 64% today for reconfirmations happen online. It's putting, not that I'm asking my people to be redundant, as a matter of fact, I'm actually asking them to do better jobs in the company. So today, when the look is happening, the search prompts us through the AI. The agent knows what he is doing. We are seeing the behaviors of this guy particularly selling, during this hours, he books for these 30 hotels. Now, do I start moving towards that focus? Is something which the system is telling us. The bot is helping us. So the reality is the operating leverage, which will come in the business for us, will actually come from the AI. But I will use my people for a better cause. Not that people will be out of jobs. This was one of your questions. I remember you were talking to me. The fact is, yes, you have to train those guys to now work through AI. How many of us actually open Google today? None. At least I don't. I think that's the next wave. So for us, search, discovery, plus fatigue. For every travel company, average employees, 10 people, they get 100 leads. It's impossible for them to serve 100. The fatigue comes in, the efficiency comes in. I think that if somebody can use it smartly themselves or through TVO, will have the output of the travel counselor or the travel advisor, which is sitting in the travel to get more output for himself and the company. But as I said, this is early days. Does it give us sleepless nights? Absolutely yes. The 126 crores, I will tell you where we are spending offline, right? I can't be talking about this in a public forum, but nevertheless, so that's what it is from my side.
Got it. So I think someone was just telling me recently, sometimes ago, that AI is like a 3-year-old child. So it's like a lot of adults hate questions from a 3-year-old kid. So the more you learn about answering those questions, the better you get at prompting. So one of the things that I think is very common across, fundamentally travel is a human business. There are people involved, the experience is human. And what a lot of AI companies are trying to do is eliminate the entry-level jobs. So in that context, when the entry-level jobs are getting automated, how do you think of training the next generation of people who are supposed to grow in the organization if that entry-level job doesn't exist? And because today, for example, if a refund comes in, there is a lot of context that goes across someone who approves a refund. If an issue happens, there's a lot of context that someone carries because they have been junior and they can automate it. So how do you balance that equation? So Hari has, I think, yeah.
Because it came up recently in my org channel on exact same question where what happens to entry-level jobs. Also on the tech side, if you see, the same thing happens. My point of view there is, I don't know when, but very soon, people will start paying companies, so colleges will become irrelevant. Right? Today you pay colleges to go and learn something. The entry-level job, you will start when you're out of your 12th or whatever grade. You will pay a company instead of paying a campus. And you will learn not just technology skills, you will learn social skills, you will learn influence, you will learn many things. And therefore, in that 3-year course or 4-year course or 2-year course, whatever course you do, it will kind of get you ready for the future, which is then you're no more an entry-level job. Right? I think that's the only way it will work, because formal education is dying, and there is literally no, apart from the social skills that you build, I don't see value of a formal education. Obviously, there are tags that you associate with some campuses, but I think a large part, I come from a state where there's an engineering college every street, right? And I mean, you just have no real merit in those colleges anymore. And think about it, some part of the fees that you pay will be subsidized for the licensing of the model that you'll get to experience in that org. And therefore, you'll kind of, I think, get work ready is my sense.
Anyone?
No, I think those days when we started in the travel business by using the GDS, and that IATA courses, etc., I think the game's over there completely. I think how somebody will learn AI and how to master it is the next growth for these beginners, in my opinion, right? Very simple. When we used to write in school, we had that cursive writing. When my son went to school, he was asked that he will never hold a pen because he's on an iPad. Today, the fact is, do you need to be a Shakespeare to write English? Not at all. Everybody seems to write amazing English. It's all coming from the GPT. So the reality is, how do you master this? It's going to help you to grow faster in anybody's career, And so it's a fact. I think somebody says I'm doing a graduation in AI, I'm the happiest because I knew this is the next guy which is going to create the difference, right? And I think it's very important for all of us to learn. But from an entry-level perspective, what we used to do 50 and back is not going to happen anymore, for sure.
I have a slightly different take on this, and it's coming from your question, actually, because if you think about AI, fundamentally, the learning model, especially in a very people-oriented business like selling travel and travel experiences, is really coming from humans having sold to humans, and how do you extend that knowledge, to keep that AI up to date and learning, because the customer is constantly changing, and we have to adapt. And B, I think with the kind of headroom, and the earlier panel talked a lot about the kind of headroom we're talking about, I think the economic model versus, let's say, the developed West, where there is a declining aging population, and a country like India, where it's got a huge population with such low organized travel penetration, the headroom for all of us to grow, and therefore the need for companies like us that want to scale up with a non-linear cost structure. I think AI is a very potent tool, because what it does is help you extend the human capability and the human expertise manyfold, economically, profitably, and without compromising quality at scale. And to me, that's the big difference, because very often this one-size-fits-all logic that AI is going to cannibalize entry-level jobs. It's true possibly of the US, maybe UK, France, etc., where, and in any case, step back a bit, I think fundamentally, in an increasingly competitive world, if you're not good at something, you're going to be out of a job anyway, right, AI or not. What AI is going to do definitely is going to call on all of us to get better at what we do and maybe contribute to training and extending capability in a country like India. And I think the opportunity or headroom for trainers of AI and for the expertise to make AI models more powerful, especially in a very complex, language diverse market like us, is huge. So I don't see it cannibalizing jobs as much as probably it would in a lot of other markets.
Got it. Okay. So one of the biggest problems around using AI has always been hallucination. AI telling something which is not there, probably. One of the biggest case that happened in the beginning of last year was one of the airlines where the chatbot said that the cancellation fees is in double-digit dollars, but actually the cancellation fees was much higher. And eventually, the consumer won the case in the court, saying that if the chatbot has said it, the airline has to follow it. In travel, support issues or these kind of issues are extremely margin destructive. It can completely obliterate whatever you have been building. So how do you think about guardrails around that? Like how much control? Because what happens typically in AI is you might give it some amount of control, but that control can then become complacency. So that part of operations, because everything we do in travel is largely operations, till the person is actually in the ground, or on the ground, sorry. So how do you think about that kind of risk at this point in time?
So Ankit, there's a risk definitely, and in our case, simple tickets is something which is now going through the AI. I think it's very early in the journey, but when you come to high-end travel / complex itineraries, and especially corporate travel, etc., it's something you need to be cautious about. So yes, the experiment has started, and I can tell you sometimes the mistakes are lesser actually than my own call center staff, but for the basic itineraries. But yes, we will learn through this before we go all out, and because this can, if it goes reverse, we can lose millions in a day, right? So we would be very, very cautious. So absolutely rest. This is going to happen for sure, but I think for us, we're still learning. We will evolve out of it, but let's do point-to-point, simple itineraries, and then obviously grow through the journey as we evolve.
So two ways we are using guardrails in some of the solutions that I spoke of earlier. The first is in terms of the chatbot's responses. If it is generic, like what's the weather like this time of year, etc., that may be from a credible third-party source that's not our own. But for anything related to product, pricing, etc., it's either our own data, which it's picking up from specified guardrail-defined content fields, or it is saying, I need to check and we'll get back to you. So that's a very specific guardrail. And as I said, the agent assist, which is basically both voice and on the screen of the call center agent before he responds, it's a prompt. So the human is the guardrail, because the human has the ability to say, okay, this doesn't make sense, and use or not use it. So we are actually using this both to learn how accurate and how much of a match. And what we're doing real time is matching the prompt and what the seller actually says. Because if we see a high degree of match, we know that it is giving quality responses that are helping, that are validated by the seller usage. And then obviously it gets better.
For us, it's slightly more easier because the scale of both TBO and TC and SOTC is much larger, I think. But for me, it's a question of what do you optimize, speed or accuracy. We optimize for speed. So like Ankush said, and also I think he touched upon, there's always a new trainee making mistakes, right? So it's inevitable. The moment you're not on ChatGPT and you're talking to Pick Your Trail, then you automatically assume that you will get the right answer. You're choosing a service provider because you want the right answer, right? You're not talking to a generic LLM which has a disclaimer, right? So the moment the customer is with us, then irrespective of who says it, an LLM says it or a manager says it, it's on us, that we have to fulfill whatever we have said. So that's our ethos where we started. And so we said, if that's the case, then just put AI. And there have been cases where AI goes and promises, let's say you can upgrade the room for so much, right? AI goes and says, I can get you this ticket done. So the only thing is we should not compromise customer experience, right? So if it means we have to pay out of pocket, we pay out of pocket. But we file it under cost of running a business and then say what's the cost of experimentation and innovation. Because if you're, I mean, this is my personal perspective, if you're not clear and you're trying to balance the both, right, then you're always going to be much more slower than when you had conviction on one thing, right? And our conviction is AI first is the only way to grow, and it's going to differentiate completely the way everything is done in an organization. So even simple HR policies, right? Somebody might say this is a holiday, this is an RH. I mean, employees will feel bad ki ye RH tha, right? I mean, you just got to run with it. I think that's the way we feel. And the faster you run, then the team has a larger accountability to get the answer right. Then all of us focus a lot more on what am I missing? How did this become an hallucination? How did this get the data wrong? And we go back and fix it. Obviously, we then decide which markets to go after. We can't do this across. It's just then blitzkrieg. We picked up 2-3 markets. We were solving for content. We were solving for pricing. We were solving for visa. We were solving for customer support. We were solving for sales. Then you really make that right playbook. Then you just flip it on all markets.
So, one quick stats for everyone. This is from published benchmarks. AI itineraries, only 10% of AI itineraries today are on par with human agents in terms of slight complexities and stuff like that. Again, there are published benchmarks saying that out of 50 travel-related tasks, AI could complete only 54% of them effortlessly. But the cost that was required to complete those tasks was anywhere between $150 to $300. So it is much more costlier at this point of time to run it. For each one of you, I wanted to ask you personally, what were you most surprised about AI doing that you thought it could change travel?
I'll go first. I think first of all with these stats, data can be tortured to say any story, right? So you've come with the story ki chalo AI mein, travel mein. I just think that the good organizations are sitting mum, and the bad organizations, see all the AI startups which have raised Mindtrip, this and that, all that is just a wrapper on an LLM, right? So obviously it's going to be more expensive. They don't have inherent data. Like they would have 100 years of itineraries, dude. How can they go wrong?
Yeah.
How can their itineraries go wrong? Right? I mean, you just put a bunch of GPUs and say you'll get an itinerary, you'll obviously go wrong, right? Because you're just fetching off what's existing on the internet.
Yeah.
You're not fetching off curated products that they've built over so many years.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sure they're getting everything right. He won't talk about it publicly, that's all. That's what I feel. But coming back, one moment which I thought really blew my mind was, we have Trippy. Trippy is our AI agent. And we introduced Trippy both pre-trip and post-trip. And on trip. I'll tell you where. Pre-trip is very straightforward, like lead qualification, chat to change, all of that. What really was a mind-blowing moment for me was sometime in October last year, where a customer had booked a trip. 2 customer videos. One was Thailand, one was Dubai. Dubai had booked a trip, and he said, now 31st, I want to arrange for like whatever, fireworks, whatever. And Trippy fetched from our backend saying, here is the price for in this place, here's the price in this place, here's private car price, here's shared car price. That is a contained problem which exists in my backend. Then there's a Thailand inquiry which asked for some activity which didn't exist in our catalog. So Trippy came back and said, it doesn't exist in my catalog. I can either ask my team to update and then come back to you. And it actually handed it off to a human and said, this person wants this, go ahead and change this, right? Now, what is my customer's biggest pain point? Yaar, jab sales karte ho, everybody is like following up till the last minute, raat ko 10 baje, 11 baje, 12 baje, you take money. But moment I make the first payment, everybody is like, nobody is responding immediately, right? Now, the moment I have Trippy there, I guarantee that my account owner, whatever we call, would have taken some time, gone to the DMC, figured out the activity and said, give me 2 days time, which causes frustration for the customer. In this case, Trippy is able to real-time map and give him a solution, which he's extremely excited. And on trip, what we do is, we do Trippy check-ins. It's like, sir, hope you've got into the transfer, right? Hope you've checked into the hotel. Hope you enjoyed the activity today. While there's a human in the loop to give you any kind of emergency assistance or, I missed my transfer, what do I do next? General, that sense of, like they have an escort or a tour manager, right? Which is a beautiful mental stability, right? New place, new food, you're scared. So that guy is there always. But in our case, it's customized holidays. So how do we give that similar care and comfort? Trippy comes in, checks in with you, right? And then we have tried 1 or 2 solutions where it goes back and pings your parents. Get that they checked into the hotel. Small nuances, and then people just love it. So I think multiple ways AI is going to change, and I think it's just our imagination that's going to stop us.
You shared, I'm not surprised, because point to point, it might happen, but I come back on the complex itineraries. The challenge is, Ankit, it is not the company which is building the AI. It is connecting all the dots to complete the whole value chain of the traveler. That is where it breaks. And that's when the human loop comes, and that's that 54% what you said comes in play. I think this is going to remain because many hotels, excursions, car rentals, they are still not there. And to tie up this together, to have a complete seamless experience on the AI, I think will take time. For me, it is for me, it is still a discovery, but the offline is when the human in loop comes and concludes it, right? Especially for complex, large itineraries. And the trust factor also. I'm paying 10 lakh rupees. Can I trust this bot? Can I trust this AI? Can I trust this tool? I think that's a big challenge. Let's see if it happens or not, but I still believe it's still some time away.
I think as in any new or emerging technology, and let's admit it, we're still, taking the first baby steps on what I call the AI frontier. So to my mind, you look at whether it was the internet or mobile phones in the early days, per se, per call or per minute of internet connectivity or mobile conversations in those days. I remember the days when a minute for a local mobile call was 28 rupees. 20, maybe even earlier, 50 rupees and all that a minute, right? Some of us old enough in this room will remember those days. And the internet with that, what do you call it? KBPS, it go beep, beep, beep kind of thing. Ridiculous bandwidth and paying through your nose for it. So I think early adopters had a price to pay, which was physical, but I think what they got in return was expertise ahead of the curve, and all leaders, per force, it goes with the territory, you make that investment to stay ahead of the curve. Because especially with AI, the advantage of being 1 year ahead in this game at scale is the difference between being damn good or being an amateur. And I think that's very, very critical. So it's the cost of doing business, if you will.
Got it. So I think we have last 3-4 minutes, and 60% of startups which were in Focusrite top 25 or hottest 25 startups are AI startups. Most of them solving for discovery, some format of recommendation, all of that. I personally believe that no matter how great are you at discovery, eventually the guy with the right price wins. Okay. How do you think, and AI is trying to, from the question largely is that, do you think AI is like the internet 20 years ago, or AI is like the mobile screen revolution maybe 10 years ago? How do you think about it? Because both solve different purposes. Internet got new businesses online, so you got things changed, everything changed around it. Mobile screen was the only form factor change. But the businesses were still the same. You had Walmart probably 25 years ago, now Walmart is an app today. So what is that you think about AI?
I think AI is an infrastructure change. So it could be like railroads, it could be like internet, anything that's infrastructurally different is what is AI. I think, so that's why I feel a lot of things today we're talking about, and the problem with this is both internet and railroads had massive capex requirements. Now AI also has massive capex requirements in terms of chips, but compared to the undersea cabling the internet needed, right, or the steel consumption that railroads needed, AI doesn't need so much. I mean, obviously there's a scarcity, but it is easier solvable than that. So the rate of pace of change is insane. So we have not encountered that kind of rate of pace of change. A 4G to 5G, you look at what's happened in India, right? I mean, imagine, give it 1 more year, 2 more years. I think we will be in a very different kind of mindset of what's happening. And that's what I think is critical for us as leaders to say, how do we, it's an unknown, right? It's not even like a known. It's an unknown, but you have to keep obsessing about it to instill that sense of, what do you say, sleepless nights, so that we can kind of completely make progress. And to your point, I think I don't think top of the funnel is a problem, right? I think top of the funnel is not a problem. Like you said, it's about experience, it's about operations, it's about pricing, it's about discovery, which yes, AI can personalize, like Ankush said, right? It can personalize, but the question is, how do you use it within your customer segment and not get carried away? There's a lot of noise, so putting our heads down, like you said, identifying 3-4 problems, going after them, and going after them at completely new levels of imagination. That what if this team didn't exist? That's what's happening to developers, right?
Yeah.
They're becoming increasingly 100x.
OpenAI's burn rate for 2026 is $14 billion. So, yeah.
If you think about the internet as having democratized knowledge and made it available to everyone theoretically equally, I'd say what AI has done is democratized expertise and capability at scale.
Yeah.
So I think to your question, it's a motherhood question, but I think it'll be different things to different people. And it can mean a lot if you use it a lot and you think about how it can add the most value to your life, or it can mean nothing to you if you choose not to use it, as today a lot of people are. And whether it's composing an email or or an editorial piece or social posting, as we were talking about, it can do so many things for so many people. You have to build that use case.
Ankush?
My last line, as time's up, I think it's an animal you have to tame. If you do not, you will be out of the game. I find it as an advantage, and I said in the beginning, if you understand AI and use it to your advantage, it can have a multiplier effect. So I see it more of an opportunity than a threat, but the question is, one who is not adaptable to the change is going to be out of the game. But it's going to hit faster than the internet. Absolutely, yes. Internet took, as I said, 25 years. This is a 3-year story. And who's going to be a winner here? I think very soon, hopefully in 2030, I should be in the States still talking about this, because some will not be here, right? So depending how we evolve, I think, but it's an opportunity in my opinion. And keeping in mind the whole growth at India, the whole size of India growing right now, there's enough for everybody. And remember one thing, visas cannot be solved through AI, at least in India, for especially Shenigan and the American. There are 150 people in the morning I saw today standing outside the American embassy. What AI are they looking at? I don't know. But some travel agent is definitely helping them, right? So how can you optimize certain things like this with the AI? I think is the survival for the future.
Okay, last question very quickly to finish it off. Will AI help the big travel companies get bigger, or it will help new players to take over? Like, quick answer.
Absolutely, we need to get bigger, right? So we will, I think it's an opportunity, as I said. So I will not take it as a threat at all. But do we acquire somebody who's a champion of this in few years? I don't know. Do we do it ourselves, etc.? So let's see.
Hari, quickly.
I think it's everybody is going to benefit, and there'll be multiple segments that will open up. So there could be small companies that could really scale faster because of AI. There'll be big companies who have like so much data. If they're able to put it to use, then they'll really become much more bigger. You're seeing it play out in, like, there's no new except for Claude, Anthropic. Everybody is working with the existing model. So I think it will kind of consolidate, but that also travel is unique in a way that there can be newer segmented plays which will become bigger.
Got it. Abraham?
I agree with what Hari is saying. I think it gives smaller companies a great opportunity to pick aggregated knowledge on the back of LLMs or open models. It allows big companies, maybe like us, to build on what we already have, including the human capabilities and the scale of real conversations happening, and get better faster. What each of us will have to do is use AI well to keep strengthening that moat, small companies to get better, personalized, capable faster, and for big companies to be able to scale and have a non-linear profit growth process.
So on a closing thought, I want to just quote a venture capitalist called Chris Pack, who read that automation could replicate every Michelin-starred dish in the world, but no one would fly an ocean to basically eat that. We traveled to eat in that Michelin-star restaurant because we have stories that we have heard about the chef and the childhood memories that are basically baked into that dish. So, and also the chef cameo that he does at the table. And in the end, in travel, this experience is what that matters. Thank you.
Thank you.